News now at this hour begins with update on the U.S. elections, where Donald Trump has delivered a victory speech at the Palm Beach County Convention Center in Florida as he emerged winner of the presidential election after beating Kamala Harris in a stunning White House comeback. In his address, he called for national unity, urging the American people to put the division of the past 4 years behind them. Trump was joined by his family as he celebrated the moment with supporters who chanted USA.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try, and it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. They came from all corners, union, non-union, African-American, Hispanic-American, Asian-American, Arab-American, Muslim-American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world.
Meanwhile, world leaders have begun to react to the election of Donald Trump as the 47th U.S. president. Now, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Wednesday congratulated Trump and urged continued close transatlantic ties, saying they're better off together. Similarly, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says he wants to take his country's alliance with the U.S. to new heights after Donald Trump claimed victory in the U.S. presidential election. Meanwhile, Sweden's Prime Minister says that Donald Trump's election as U.S. president could mean less aid for Ukraine in its war against Russia. Ulf Kristersson also fears a return to economic perfectionism in the United States, which is a major risk for a country like Sweden, which is highly dependent on its exports.
Von der transatlantischen Partnerschaft profitieren beide Seiten. Die EU und die USA sind zwei ähnlich große Wirtschaftsräume, verbunden durch die engsten wirtschaftlichen Beziehungen weltweit. Deutschland und die Vereinigten Staaten sind sich in einer über Jahrzehnte gewachsenen Partnerschaft, ja Freundschaft verbunden. Unsere menschlichen Verbindungen in die USA sind enger als in jedes andere Land außerhalb Europas. Millionen.
Still on the U.S. elections, Republicans have won control of the U.S. Senate with wins in West Virginia and Ohio, ensuring Donald Trump's party will control at least one congressional chamber next year. Now, Tuesday's results have strengthened Republican influence, enabling them to support Trump's judicial and government appointments if he wins the presidency, or to block much of Democrat Kamala Harris's agenda should she prevail. Now, in West Virginia, Republican Jim Justice also won the Senate seat formerly held by Democrat-turned-independent Joe Manchin, while Ohio's Bernie Moreno defeated incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown, securing a 51-49 majority in the Senate. Now, Republicans have also won key House seats, expanding their 220 to 212 majority. To talk more on this, we're joined by News Central's international correspondent, Afia Hagen, who has been monitoring the U.S. election. Now, Afia, let me start by asking you what the mood is and how the people are reacting to Donald Trump's victory in the just concluded election.
Well, it's just after 9 a.m. here in Washington, D.C., and the city is just waking up to the realization that Donald Trump has won another term in office. Now, I have Darren here with me, and he has been expressing his disappointment at this election result. Now, Darren, I know that you are a Harris supporter. How do you feel about the result this morning?
Well, I have not slept at all since last night, so I've been awake ever since. How do I feel right now? Sadness, grief, words not coming out of my mouth like how I wanted to. Everyone texting each other, and it's a moment where I have to be strong for my friends because they're taking this much harder than someone else. Everyone is processes this differently. So complete, utter sadness and shock, speechless. I left the watch party still optimistic, still holding on to perpetual optimism. Even until 4 o'clock in the morning, I still was that person. And I passed out of exhaustion. And I woke up 2 hours later, and then to all the notifications saying he's back in power.
Why do you think that he is back in power? Why do you think the polls got it so wrong? And why do you think the optimistic message of the Harris-Walz campaign just didn't cut through this time?
I believe something happened to elect him back into power because she gave us hope, because this country was so divided. We knew how divided we was. When she stepped into the race, she gave us hope, and we were so optimistic, and we still are. 100%, I knew she was going to be the next president and take that chair, and she deserves that chair. Something happened, and I don't know what, because I'm not in the politic world, but I'm shocked. I am just utterly shocked.
Donald Trump said in his speech that he gave in the early hours of this morning that he will try and unify the country. Do you think that's possible?
No. We saw what he did those 4 years he was in power. While he left, he got angrier and angrier and angrier. He's going to come back on full revenge mode, and we're going to see the rest of his anger, and we have been seeing that and reading that in his Project 2025 vision.
Well, Darren, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Darren, they're expressing the sadness and the frustration that a lot of people who voted for Harris-Walz, who were part of the Harris-Walz campaign, will be feeling this morning.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that update, Afia. We'll get back to you in the next bulletin. Now, moving away from that, President Bola Tinubu has extended his congratulations to Donald Trump on his re-election as the 47th president of the United States. Now, in a statement issued by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu expressed optimism about deepening ties between Nigeria and the United States. Tinubu emphasized that Trump's victory demonstrates the trust and confidence Americans place in his leadership, applauding the commitment of the U.S. to democratic values. Reflecting on Trump's previous experience as the 45th president, President Tinubu expressed confidence that Trump's return to office would foster a new era of productive, mutually beneficial economic and development partnership between Africa and the United States. Away from the U.S. election and back to stories from Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the rescheduling of the Federal Executive Council meeting following the demise of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. Now, the president noted that a new date for the meeting will be announced later. The FEC meeting was initially scheduled for today, Wednesday, but had to be postponed in honor of late Lagbaja, who passed away on Tuesday night. General Lagbaja served as the Chief of Army Staff from June 19, 2023 till his death on November 5, 2024. Bayo Onanuga, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, in a statement said President Tinubu has also ordered flags to be flown at half-mast nationwide for 7 days in honor of the departed general. Recall that there had been speculations about the whereabouts of Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja when President Tinubu announced the appointment of Major General Olufemi Olatunbosun Oluyede as the acting chief of Army Staff on October 30th. Now, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, made the official announcement of Lagbaja's demise on his X handle at about 9:15 a.m. on November 6th. News Central's Bernard Akede gives us a brief history about the life and times of the late general.
Born 28 February 1968, Lieutenant General Taoreed Abiodun Lagbaja was the Chief of Army Staff of Nigeria. He was appointed on 19 June 2023 by President Bola Tinubu to succeed Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya. Lagbaja, who hailed from Osun State, was admitted into the Nigerian Defense Academy in the year 1987 as a member of the 39th Regular Course. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant on 19 September 1992 into the Nigerian Infantry Corps. Between 1992 and 1995, Lagbaja was platoon commander of the 93 Battalion. From 1995 to 2001, he was platoon commander of 72 Special Forces Battalion. In 2001, Lagbaja obtained the bachelor's degree in geography from the Nigerian Defense Academy. He studied strategic studies at the U.S. Army War College at the master's level. In 2009, he became Deputy Chief of Staff G1 at Headquarters 81 Division, and subsequently he became Commanding Officer at 72 Special Forces Battalion, Makurdi, from 2012 to 2013 and from 2014 to 2015. In 2016, Lagbaja was named the Chief of Staff at Headquarters 8 Task Force Division, Mongunu. He served as Director of Operations at the Army Headquarters Department of Army Training and Operations from January to December 2018. He was a commander of Headquarters 9 Brigade in Ikeja, Lagos, and Headquarters 2 Brigade, Uyo, Akwa Ibom States. Before his new appointment, Lagbaja was General Officer commanding Headquarters 82 Division from March 2021 to August 2022 and Headquarters 1 Division from August 2022 to June 2023. Earlier in 2008, he attended the Military Observers Course on Peacekeeping Wing at the Nigerian Army School of Infantry, Jaji, and ECOWAS Standby Force Battalion Command Post Course, Peacekeeping Center, Bamako, Mali. Before his unfortunate passing, Lieutenant General Lagbaja participated in several key operations, including Operation Harmony 4 in Bakassi Peninsula, United Nations Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Operations Zaki, Internal Security Operations in Benue State, Operation Lafia Dole, Operation Mesa, Operation Udoka, Internal Security Operations in Southeast Nigeria, and Operation Forest Sanity, Internal Security Operations in Kaduna and Niger States, amongst others. Lagbaja was married to Maria Abiodun Lagbaja, and the marriage was blessed with 2 children. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
A group of 114 #EndBadGovernance protesters, including 30 minors, arrived at the State House Auditorium in Abuja today following an order for their release by President Bola Tinubu. Now, the protesters were brought to the premises around 2 p.m. and were officially received by Vice President Kashim Shettima, who represented President Tinubu in handing them over to their respective state governors. The release, facilitated by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, saw high-profile attendees at the handover ceremony, including Deputy Senate President Jibrin Barrow, Chairman of Appropriations Committee Abubakar Bichi, and Governors Uba Sani of Kaduna and Abba Yusuf of Kano. Also in attendance were ministers, including Tunji Alausa of Education, Nentawe Ilwadda of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, and Balade Belawal of Environment, along with other senior government officials.
For the opt-ins time, we cannot but thank the President profusely for proving to the world that he is the father of the nation. I want to thank the President on behalf of our governors on behalf of our members of the National Assembly for his magnanimity in granting pardon to these youngsters. Not that they were exonerated from their crimes, there were incontrovertible evidences indicting them for committing those offenses. But two wrongs do not make a right. It's out of his own magnanimity. He's a father to the nation. He granted pardon to these young men. Most of the instigators of the crime, their children were not involved. Neither were they at the forefront of the agitation. Over 300 billion naira worth of properties and assets were destroyed, largely belonging to the business community in Kano, Kaduna, and other parts of the north. Who are the not losers? It's our business community. So we'll urge the young men, we'll admonish the young men to turn a new leaf. Our governors and our other leaders will sit down and cross-pollinate ideas on how to rehabilitate them and reintegrate them back to the society as better citizens.
In the meantime, the End Bad Governance movement in Lagos has urged President Tinubu to withdraw charges against all protesters currently detained or on trial, including Adaramoye Michael Lenin and 10 others whose trial for treason is scheduled to commence at the Federal High Court in Abuja on Friday. Now, this call comes after the release of 114 detained protesters, including minors, on Tuesday, November 5th. The movement noted that the charges against those released and the 11 others still incarcerated are broadly similar and, as such, demands the release of the remaining detainees and a public apology, amongst other demands. To underscore their demands, the movement has declared Friday, November 8th, which coincides with the treason trial of the 11 protesters, as a day for a peaceful solidarity rally demanding their freedom.
The case of people who have been alleged to want to topple a government, all that the government has against them are call logs, phone, telephone. Some of these items are repeated 2 or 3 times in the so-called proof of evidence. The truth of the matter is that the charges against the 11 protesters, just as the charges against the 114, including the children, are trumped up and false charges. We also call for the meeting of the demands of the August protest, especially regarding the reversal of fuel price hike, electricity tariff hike in food prices, as well as all anti-poor policies. On our own part, we are going to hold a peaceful rally on this day. The rally will be held as follows. The date, once again, is Friday, 8th November 2024, which is the day that Adaramoye Michael Lenin and 10 others will be back in court.
The Edo State Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu, has called for the probe of the ownership of the Radisson Blu Hotel situated in Benin City, the state capital. The Deputy Governor, while reacting to questions from newsmen at his investiture by the Edo State Journalists Association, commended the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for arresting several officials of the state government, urging them to spread their nets further. Amadine Uyi reports.
It was a session with journalists of Edo State extraction, with the Deputy Governor of the state, Philip Shaibu, and several key politicians. One of those in attendance, a former lawmaker, urged the media to be steadfast in their vocation, saying they remain the last hope of the common man.
You all are the last hope that will put Nigeria in the world map. Because the government, as we see today, sir, we are sitting on the keg of a gunpowder. Because some people want to derail the wheel of progress of moving this country forward. Some people who believe that this country, that they are the owner.
The Deputy Governor of the state reacted to events playing out in the state, bordering on the arrest of several key officials by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
It's not just the governor that is an issue now. all the commissioners, all the SUBEB chairmen and the rest. No, not only them. The civil servants also, some of the permanent secretary, that is why ICPC will also come in. There's this one in Abulele. Obviously, ICPC and EFCC, he is both ICPC and EFCC. We have to pick in Abulele also.
He also called for a probe of the ownership of the Radisson Blu Hotel in the state, saying it remains the property of the state government and should not be allowed to be claimed by the outgoing governor.
Issue of Radisson Blu, I'm passionate about it because Radisson Blu belongs to Edo State government. Radisson Blu, they are trying to take it, and I think the next governor or others should. It's Edo State. Radisson Blu is Edo State, and I'm using this medium to please advise Radisson Blu not to bring their name into disrepute. They should immediately delist their name from that property for now. If not, Radisson Blu that have built an image for itself will be brought down because that structure belongs to Edo State government. Over 29 billion. We started with 14 billion, then to 19, now over 29 billion. And somebody would come and tell us Edo State has no, our share is our investment is small. 29 billion is more.
The deputy governor was commended for his commitment to standing by the rule of law and appointed as the patron of the State Association of Journalists. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Thank you, Amadine. Now, the federal government has reversed the decision to set a minimum admission age of 18 for entry into Nigeria's tertiary institutions in a significant policy shift. During his inaugural press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday, Education Minister Tunji Alausa unveiled his blueprint for the nation's education sector with a rollback of the 18-year age limit as a primary focus. The minister stated he would collaborate with JAMB and universities to allow students as young as 16 to enroll in tertiary institutions. However, Alausa affirmed that there would be no change to the government's stance on nullifying over 22,700 degree certificates obtained by Nigerians from unaccredited universities in neighboring Togo and Benin Republic, stressing the commitment to uphold educational standards. Abia State government says it has concluded plans to relocate the faculties of law and agriculture of Abia State University to the main campus in Uturu. Commissioner for Information, Oke Kanu, disclosed this to journalists in Umuahia during a press briefing on the decisions of the Executive Council of the state. News Central's Chinwe Ogele reports that this plan is eliciting reactions from students and parents alike.
It was in 2017 when the then governor of Abia State, Okezi Ikpeazu, moved the College of Law in the state-owned university to Umuahia, the Abia State capital. But in a twist of plot, the incumbent governor, Alex Otti, has ordered the relocation of the faculty as well as that of agriculture to the main campus in Uturu, citing white paper recommendations.
His Excellency Dr. Alex Otti has directed that the Umuahia campus be relocated back to Uturu without delay.
But following this development, the law students of the university say the decision does not in any way favor them.
To us, we feel that the best thing the government could have done is to maybe bring more students to this campus so that it help the campus to be more lively. But even at that, us going back to Uturu, Uturu is good, it's a good campus, but then look at the challenges facing due to the main campus, the lack of water, the lack of accommodation, the lack of load, the lack of security.
It's going there to start afresh, to start building a new faculty and to start, putting up all those things. Time and students' activities will actually be hampered a lot much. If it's possible to, scrap out that plan and look for other things in making this place more effective.
They say the main campus lacks the necessary amenities and facilities that aid their studies.
In Uturu, there's no light at all. completely. There's no light, and water hardly comes. The network there is bad. And, given to legal research, we have to have internet, we have to have a lot of things that will aid our learning. And if these things are completely taken away from us, because that's what is going to happen, peradventure we are going to that place. If it's completely taken away from us, then it's almost as if we are not even reading law in the first place.
Ever since we know, we have been here and we have been enjoying the atmosphere as it enables us to study our law, and we have access to Minister of Justice, we have access to courts, we have access to light and water, we have access to library and everything. Then us hearing that the state government wants to relocate us is something that bothers us.
Ifoma Osunko, a parent and one-time law student of the same university in the main campus, compares both locations.
You know that like in a class they have up to like 300 students or thereabout. So and the hostels in Uturu, I don't think they have such a massive hostel that can accommodate them. That is one. Then secondly, I don't think there is any courts that they can access there, because like even when they say let them come to Okigwe, there are the courts in Okigwe, they have all relocated to Owerri.
Government has already started making plans for the Faculty of Agriculture to move first despite the benefits of its present location, which has National Roots Crop Research Institute, Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, all in the same vicinity with the Faculty of Agriculture. In Omaha for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugili.
Now, away from education, the upcoming governorship election in Ondo State, Nigeria, has drawn attention to long-standing concerns regarding the safety of journalists covering elections in the country. Dealing with challenges like physical confrontation and harassment while reporting on Nigeria's electoral process for years, media professionals continue advocating for freedom of the press and journalists' safety, noting that such protections are paramount to ensuring credible and transparent elections. News Central's Igbalani Omoni provides more details.
Reports indicated that at least 28 journalists were harassed, beaten and denied access while covering Nigerian elections in 2023.
Immediately they opened the door, they picked the camera. Process of taking the camera, we are trying to see, one of our team was trying to see how he can get the camera. They used the camera on the ground.
The election in Kano for me was the worst, talking about the presidential elections and then the governorship election. Myself and my camera operator were threatened at some point. At some point, I was even robbed. I had his phone picked from my pockets, and it could have gotten worse.
With over 700 media personnel accredited to cover the forthcoming Ondo gubernatorial election, the Electoral Commission, INEC, and security forces have promised maximum security.
As the Ondo State governorship election approaches, I appeal to the media to intensify your accurate reportage that will ensure peaceful elections, especially now that campaign by political parties and candidates is in full swing in the state.
With the upcoming off-cycle gubernatorial election in Ondo State, the local government council elections nationwide, and the challenges of the current Ember months, our vigilance and commitment to enhance security are paramount.
However, media practitioners note that more needs to be done as harm to media personnel undermines the integrity of the electoral process and democratic institutions.
As we look forward to the upcoming gubernatorial election in Ondo State, and indeed other by-elections coming up in some constituencies, I want to underscore the need for the safety and protection of our journalists.
What would progress like that look like? It would look like security agencies and agencies who are meant to execute laws and all of that, to begin to look at the work of journalists as something that can be regarded as allies rather than as opponents. We are not opponents.
So safety of journalists, as a matter of fact, will eventually translate into accountability of the votes that have been cast and possibly a good result at the end.
While media personnel should be properly trained for election coverage and provided equipment and safety gears, experts maintain that ensuring journalists' safety should be a top priority for all stakeholders involved. Attacks on journalists, they say, should be thoroughly investigated and perpetrators held accountable. In Lagos for News Central, I am Igbalani Omoni.
Now let's head to Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, where residents are appealing for the urgent construction of an access road to the Herwa Peace Housing Estate, a strategic area home to key government institutions such as the National Emergency Management Agency store and Borno State Medical Store, among others. The absence of a reliable road has made it difficult for residents to reach essential services at the Herwa Peace Housing Estate Clinic, especially in critical situations. News Central's Umari Kirawa completes the report.
One of the busy routes, the Auno Street of Baga Road in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Despite its proximity to the Maiduguri emergency gas plant, poor road conditions hinder access for both residents and emergency service providers.
Hanyar da yake tafiyan kuma ga ina muna ta shan wahala damuna ya zo ruwa in ya kwanta hanya ma ba bi.
We really appreciate the effort of the state governor, Engineer Babagana Umara Zulum, by constructing many roads in the state capital. But to us, that link to the Yerwa Peace Road, to us, the construction of the Yerwa Peace Road is much more important.
Motoci suna shan wahala a wannan wajen. Sanadiyan wajen ba shi da kyau, hanyar kwata-kwata ba ta da kyau. Da Allah gwamnati ta dan taimaka ta waye mu da Allah, ba dan halin mu ba. Nagode Allah saka hanya.
Locals argue that the current lack of proper access to these services poses significant challenges, particularly during emergencies.
Ya dan taimaka mana dan Allah. Ya dan ba mu tallafin shi domin shi kan mun san shi mai karbi kuka mu ne, muna roke shi kuma shi mai karbi roko mutane kowa ne.
Kai gaskiya muna shan wahala tun ba mu a damuna ba. Giya daya bulo yana zubewa muna tafiya ga wahala dai kawai, mota yana shan wahala bulo yana faffashewa.
Yau zai kai kaman shekara 6 ko 7 haka. Kusan kullum sai na bi layin nan, shi nan da layin yanda yake na da ne.
They believe that a well-constructed road will enhance connectivity and improve access to essential healthcare and emergency supplies, ultimately benefiting the entire community.
Allah muna sa gwamnati da Allah na zulumi na adalci, da Allah ya wayo mai duba wannan hanyar wannan gaba daya bai wuce kilomita 1 ba, amma ya kai da Allah wayo mu duba mana Allah wannan hanyar mun a samu mu shiga cikin jama'a.
Yanzu wancan hanyar ma an fara yin shi sosai. Yanzu an yi kwalta komai da komai, yanzu an gyara shi. Nan din mun fi so shi ma in an gyara yayi is very very important. Saboda haka shi gwamna ne na jama'a goma. Ka gane Borno State a Nigeria ma yana gani gwamnan da ya fi shi ma ni ban gani ba har yanzu.
This issue of flood in Borno State, I know government is taking the government time. It's diverting the attention to that flood stuff, but please, they should also bear it in mind that we need their help concerning this road. They should come and help us, please.
Residents hope that the government will respond to their yearnings by constructing the road leading to Herwa Peace Housing Estate and other strategic government institutions for sustainable growth. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Ahead of COP29 climate conference, rights advocates in Nigeria have requested for an estimated $200 billion annually for the mitigation of the effects of climate change on poorer countries. Now, this is as they accused big corporations in the global north of refusing to take responsibility for the damage caused to the environment affecting less developed countries. Idong Joseph reports.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change estimates that about $200 to $210 billion in global investment will be needed by 2030 to meet the Paris Agreement's emission targets of keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, with 6 years left to the set date, Nigeria and Africa still struggle to access necessary financing.
If you want to achieve 1.5 degrees temperature increase, it means you have to cut down the use of all those elements to that height you can see there. If you want to keep to 2 degrees, you still have to cut, which means there's no room for expansion of fossil fuel extraction. No room at all. But what I would say in the world today, there's an assault on the deltas, especially in Africa. An assault on the Okavango Delta, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Namibia and Botswana. More oil is being extracted.
Advocates here accuse developed countries of being responsible for wide-scale emissions and not taking responsibility for their actions.
What remains worrisome is the unbordered disposition of polluters at the global north and their deliberate refusal to accept historical liabilities, commit to reparatory justice through progressive and sustainable grant, and not loans for climate financing.
We must begin to insist that polluters cut emissions at source. They can't pollute in the global north and designate areas in the global south as carbon sinks. It's insulting, it's unjust, and it's unacceptable.
They say Africa needs over $200 billion annually to adapt to climate change and limit the impact it creates.
It is estimated that the region will need an average of $250 billion per year in climate finance between 2020 and 2030 against the paltry sum of $30 billion it received in 2020, which is about 12% of the amount needed.
We pay what you are owing us from centuries of damage. We don't need to ask for any other money. We're asking for $1 billion and we're not getting it. The whole of loss and damage at Dubai didn't amount to more than $700 million. It didn't even get to $1 billion.
With COP29 less than 7 days from now, this National Conference on Climate Change, organized by the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, aims to encourage stakeholders to challenge the unjust structures of intervention benefiting just a few countries. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Now, in the south of the continent, Mozambique's Defense Minister, Cristóvão Chume, has issued a stern warning that the military may intervene if post-election protests, which have turned deadly, continue across the country. Now, speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, Chume condemned the protest, stating that they're sowing division, spreading hatred, and destroying infrastructure. He described the demonstrations as part of an attempt to destabilize the government. The minister's warning comes as opposition leader Venancio Mondlane calls for a large protest in the capital, Maputo, this Thursday, declaring it as a day of Mozambique's freedom.
Indica isso. Não há quem ataca as forças de segurança só por simples prazer. Não há quem prepara uma marcha para a Ponta Vermelha, para dar mergulho na piscina da Ponta Vermelha por puro Brasil. Queremos reconhecer que as manifestações são violentas, sim, e o papel das forças de segurança é de prevenção. Somos chamados a reagir. Reagimos na medida dos atos desenvolvidos pelos manifestantes para poder contê-los. Mas se o chamado à violência continuar, não se coloca outra alternativa.
In the meantime, South Africa has temporarily closed the busy Lebombo border crossing with Mozambique amid escalating post-election violence in the neighboring country. Unrest erupted in Mozambique following the October 9 presidential election, where the ruling Frelimo party, in power since 1975, claimed victory, a result the opposition has labeled fraudulent. Now, South Africa's Border Management Authority Commissioner, Michael Masiepato, reported that vehicles were torched on the Mozambican side of the Lebombo port of entry, prompting the closure. The Lebombo crossing, located about 110 kilometers from Mozambique's capital Maputo and 440 kilometers from Pretoria, is a key transit point between the two nations. Authorities are monitoring the situation closely and working to reopen the border at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, travelers are advised to take alternative routes until conditions destabilize. As the Africa Energy Week enters day 2 in Cape Town, South Africa, Delegates from across the continent and beyond continue to engage in crucial discussions on Africa's sustainable energy future. They are also highlighting the urgency of addressing energy poverty and accelerating the energy transition in Africa, with panel discussions exploring the responsive strategies Africa can adopt to bolster its energy security and position itself as a leader in renewable energy. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineken Lokobiri, emphasized that Africa must unite in its fight against energy poverty.
In oil and gas, where we can raise the funding required to finance our energy mix. We are victims. We shouldn't even be consulted about transition because we are nowhere. And so we must get energy first before you talk about transition. That will be our message.
Now, in the world of sports, Rwanda will face host Senegal in the pairs opening game in the group stages of the 2025, FIBA Afro-Basket qualifiers due from November 22 to 24 in Dakar. The two teams are pooled in Group C alongside Cameroon and Gabon. After the Senegal tie, Sheikh Sarr will play Cameroon at the same venue on November 23 before taking on Gabon in the last match on November 24. Now, the national team is currently camping at Kigali Delight Hotel and is conducting daily training sessions at Petit Stade under head coach Sheikh Sarr and his assistants Yves Murenzi and Kenneth Gasana. It will be recalled that Rwanda basketball team have been in camp since November 1st under the eyes of head coach Sheikh Sarr, his first assistant Yves Murenzi, and second assistant Kenny Gasana. Nigeria's representatives in the CAF Women's Champions League, Edo Queens FC, will on Thursday morning depart Nigeria for Casablanca as hostility from the annual event begins on November 9, 2024 in Morocco, the North African country. Now, addressing the players and officials at the conference hall of the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City, yesterday, Edo State Sports Commission boss Yusuf Ali charged the contingent to be good ambassadors, stressing that as WAFU B champions, he is very confident that Edo Queens will bring the CAF Women's prestigious trophy to Edo State. A total of 25 players and some officials will be traveling on the trip. Bags and kits were distributed to the players and officials during the farewell ceremony. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. You heard that world leaders have reacted after Donald Trump emerges 47th president of the United States. You also heard that President Tinubu has postponed FEC meeting indefinitely after Taoreed Lagbaja's death. Finally, we told you that Mozambique's defense minister has threatened military intervention after days of post-election violence. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.